So much has been said this week about Russia's relationship with European nations that are looking to join NATO. Russia invaded Ukraine, you might remember, in a bid to stop it from joining that alliance. And now NATO has received membership applications from Finland and Sweden. But Turkey, a current member of NATO, have expressed their concern over these two countries' application. Russia has warned Finland and Sweden that joining the alliance would be, quote, a grave mistake. At the same time, the United Nations believes that the two countries' applications will be successful.
President Biden posed the question to his national security team, to his cabinet principals who cover national security, as to whether they supported the accession of Finland and Sweden, and for them to consider the risks as well as the benefits of bringing Finland and Sweden into the alliance. Unanimously, President Biden's national security team emphatically supported the entry of Finland and Sweden into the NATO alliance on the grounds that they have already proven themselves as highly capable security partners. In the parlance, we say net security contributors, meaning they give a heck of a lot more than they take when it comes to a security partnership or an alliance, and that we believe that Russian aggression has only reinforced the argument for the kind of defensive alliance that NATO presents and poses.
It's been described as a historic moment, so let's make sense of it for you now. Bring in Professor of History and Political Science at Michigan University, Professor Ronald Suny, who joins us from Germany this morning. It's great to have you on the program, sir. Thank you so much for making time. So as I mentioned, Finland and Sweden's decision to join NATO is being seen as one of the most significant changes in Europe's security architecture, so to speak. Is that a sentiment you share?
Absolutely. Russia, when it launched this invasion, was trying to stop NATO expansion. What Putin has done is actually expanded NATO. He's one of the contributors to the formation of this alliance.
What a pity. It looks like we've lost Professor Ronald there, who's live to us, as I mentioned, from Germany, trying to place more context, if you like, to this decision from Sweden and Finland to join NATO. I wish you could bring up a flag of, a map of the Russia, as it were, so you could see why this is so important. Ukraine is on one side of, Russia, essentially. Finland is on another. And we know that part of the reason why the invasion in Ukraine took place to begin with is because Russia felt that NATO was getting too close. Prof, I'm told we have you back on the line there. You were still trying to give us a bit more history around how, ironically, Moscow's attempts to prevent a NATO expansion is resulting in exactly that.
Exactly right. Putin is indeed the greater expander of NATO. This was what he wanted to prevent. But his invasion has caused exactly the opposite of what his real goals seem to be. He's now expanded the alliance by adding these two new members who will join within the next year. He's solidified the alliance, which had its own internal problems. Though we do have this case of Turkey, which for various internal domestic reasons wants to prevent the entry of these two Nordic countries into the alliance.
How successful can Turkey be in that? Because the alliance has 30 members, and if only one member is against it, could that, I guess, throw a spanner in the works?
Absolutely. In other words, in order for a country to come into the alliance, there has to be a unanimous consent by all the members. So Turkey effectively has a veto against the entry of these two powers. And you can ask yourself, why is Turkey so adamant in preventing these two democratic states coming into the alliance? And the reason is that Turkey itself is not very democratic anymore. They still have elections, but the president of Turkey, Erdogan, has become more and more authoritarian, and his major threat that he feels within the country is the large Kurdish minority, some 20 million people currently, who do not have the right to free elections, to education in their own language, to the kind of autonomy that they desire. And so Erdogan is afraid that if these countries which have harbored refugees from Kurdistan, which have not criticized the resistance to the Turkish repression of the Kurds, come into the alliance, then this will give legitimacy to the desires of the Kurdish we can call it a minority, but it's tens of millions of people to be recognized by the rest of the world.
Interesting. It sounds to me from your description that Turkey's reputation is a threat to that of NATO. If there was to be a process to remove a country like Turkey from this alliance, what would that look like?
I don't think anyone is going to be removed from the alliance. That is, they were supposed to be. I mean, NATO had a kind of ideological mission as well as a security mission. And that was that these were supposed to be democratic states who recognized the security of each other, who would come to the aid of each other, but that also represented kind of liberal Western values. But Turkey, and let's say Hungary as well, and some other countries too, maybe Poland, are drifting in illiberal, more authoritarian ways. And yet they remain members of the alliance because the primary interest of the alliance is security and to stand up against Russia and its aggression in Ukraine. Now, the two countries that are applying to come in from the north, that is Sweden and Finland, are model democracies. These are social welfare states. They have long traditions of free elections, tolerance of different views, representation of minorities, and so forth. So in some ways, it's the non-democratic states that are preventing the entry of more democratic states into the alliance.
How ironic is that, right? You touch on security concerns, essentially underpinning how NATO even came to be. It was Ukraine's desire to join NATO that essentially cost them their stability. Russia is now saying that Finland and Sweden essentially wanting to go down the same route is, quote, a grave mistake. Now, anybody can guess what the ramifications from Russia typically could be, but from your standpoint, if it was to get to something like war, is that something Russia can sustain, given how much resources have been deployed to Ukraine?
Recently, Putin has made it clear that he thinks that the entry of these two countries is a mistake, as you put it, that it would not increase their security, but he's also made it clear that he is not threatening military action. There'll be sanctions of some kind. There'll maybe be restriction of energy flows to those countries, a number of other diplomatic and economic efforts, but not military. Russia's having enough problem with its invasion of Ukraine that it need not expand this war. What it needs to do, and indeed I think what's in Putin's interest, is find some kind of military victory in the short run, and then negotiation, and hold on to what they can, present it as a glorious victory in their own country, and get out of this war as soon as possible. That's not in the cards just yet, but Russia's miserable showing in Ukraine means that it's not going to expand the war in the near future.
I guess that's why Sweden and Finland seem so emboldened in their efforts. Speak to us about how easy it would be to integrate these two countries in NATO from a military point of view. I mean, there needs to be some kind of integration between the alliance's military and these two countries' military. Has there been any kind of scenario in history where militaries from the alliance and these two countries have worked together?
Absolutely. As the new countries enter the alliance, they coordinate their militaries, their equipment, and other means like that. And in fact, this is happening. They're even planning some war games in the Baltic countries, which Sweden and Finland will actually participate in. So this will be a very smooth entry. I mean, if you can bring in countries like Montenegro and Bulgaria and others, you can certainly do it easily enough with countries that have already had arrangements, though they are neutral, with the NATO countries.
What, if anything, do you know about the public opinion in these two countries about joining NATO, especially given the consequences for Ukraine?
At first, there was a commitment to their neutral status, which has worked well. If you think of Finland, which has a border with Russia of over 1,000 miles, Finland, from World War II to the present time, had a policy, particularly during when it was dealing with the Soviet Union, of what was called Finlandization. This meant, look, Russia, we're an independent state. You respect our independence. We're going to develop our own capitalist economy, our own democratic state, but we're not going to do anything that would threaten your security. So in foreign policy, we'll coordinate with you. That was called Finlandization. By the way, that might have been a solution to deal with Ukraine, but it didn't come about, and now we have a war there. But so giving up this neutral stance, this cooperative relation with Russia, is quite a big change for Finland, and it's extraordinary even for Sweden. And the reason is they now see Russia as a serious military threat, given what Putin did, unprovoked, aggressive action against a neighbor for no really recognizable security need, at least not in the short run. So this is a change. February 24th, 2022 will be remembered as a date which changed the world. Something new. We're going into a new period. It's unpredictable how this is going to work out.
And it's on that sobering note that we'll leave it. Prof, thanks very much indeed for your time and helping us connect the dots. Professor Ronald Suny is a professor of history and political science with Michigan University. Live to us there from Germany this morning. Once again, appreciate your insights.